Good morning, everyone. In the last session, we discussed what is virtualization and what is containerization. Installing one operating system in another operating system is called as virtualization. So host operating system will be available. On top of that, we will install the guest operating system. In the guest operating system, we will install the required softwares to run our application. As we are installing multiple operating systems, it will slow down the system performance. To avoid this problem, we are going for containerization. So in the host operating system, we will install the Docker engine. By using that Docker engine, we are going to create Docker containers, right? So in one system, we can create multiple containers. Every container is independent on each other. Perfect. So in order to achieve this containerization, we are going for Docker. Docker is a containerization platform which is simplifying application execution process. If you want to run your application, only code is not sufficient. Along with the code, lot of softwares that we need to install. So if I want to run this application in the multiple environments, I need to install all the softwares in all the environments. There is a chance of doing the mistake. To avoid this problem, we are going for Docker. Application code, application dependencies we will package as a Docker image. So here, what are the dependencies we need for our application? We can configure in the Docker file and the code will be available. By using code and a Docker file, we will build a Docker image. Image is nothing but a package. That image we can store into Docker Hub and we can pull that image and we can run the image. When we run the image, Docker container will be created. Now here, in the last session, we have done the Docker installation in the Linux machine. All of you able to install the Docker in the Linux machine? So that Linux machine we are creating in the AWS cloud. In the AWS, there is a service called EC2. By using that EC2, we can create the Linux machine for free of cost. We connected to that Linux machine using mobile extram or putty. So in that Linux machine, we are installing Docker. So these are the commands that we are using to install the Docker. So once the Docker is installed, then we can execute the Docker commands. So let me start my machine. Yesterday, after the class is completed, I stopped my machine. Now let me start the machine again. Let me go to the instances which I have. Docker VM is available. Select this Docker VM, instance state, start the instance. So yesterday, after the practice is completed, I have stopped it. Now I am restarting the machine. So once this Docker machine is started, public IP will be generated. By using that public IP, we can connect to that machine. In order to connect with that machine, I'm using mobile extram. You can use a putty also. I have given the videos how to connect with Linux machine by using mobile extram as well as by using putty. Now take its public IP, then session, SSH, remote host, username. The default username for this machine is EC2 user. Private key, let us take this private key and PEM file connected to this. Okay, I connected to the EC2 machine. Now let us verify Docker info. When I verify Docker info, so what happened? It is not connected because the Docker daemon is not running. We need to start that Docker daemon. So what is the command to start the Docker daemon? Sudo service docker start. So when I stopped my machine, the Docker also stopped. Now I want to restart that Docker. For that I'm using sudo service docker start command. With this my Docker is started. How to verify? By using Docker info. So earlier when I executed Docker info, it is saying that cannot connect to the Docker daemon. Is the Docker daemon running? So at that time it was not running. I have started the Docker daemon by using sudo service docker start. So with this, I'm starting that Docker. So once the Docker is started, I'm able to execute a Docker info command. So once we are able to start the Docker, we can execute the Docker commands. Here, Docker images. So what are the images we have? That images we can see by using Docker images command. Right. And by using Docker PS, we can see the Docker containers. When I go for a Docker PS, it is going to display the containers which are running. Currently, there is no container which is running. So if you want to see all the stopped containers also, Docker PS-A. So this was the container we created 23 years ago. Yesterday, I created that container, it executed and it stopped. It executed and it stopped. Perfect. Now see here, we have seen the Docker commands, Docker info to see the Docker information, whether Docker daemon is running or not. We can check the status by using info command. To see the Docker images, we will use Docker images command. If you want to pull the Docker image, then we can go for Docker pull hello world. Whenever you use pull command, it is going to download the Docker image from the Docker hub and the Docker images to see the images. Once the image is pulled, I want to run that image. In order to run the image, we will go for Docker run hello world. Display running Docker containers, Docker PS, display running plus stopped containers. For that, we can go for Docker PS-A. Now here, guys, I want to delete a image. I have an image in my system. When I execute Docker images command, I'm able to see the image. I want to remove the image. In order to remove the image, Docker RMI image name or image ID. Docker RMI image name or image ID we can give. So what happened here? Image is being used by stopped container. So here I'm trying to remove the image. For that, what is the command RMI? When I'm using Docker RMI, it is saying that boss, one container created, that container executed and stopped, that container is referring to this image. So directly you cannot remove that image. Directly you cannot remove that image. So still, if you want to do that deletion, then we need to go for force delete, -F. So when I go for Docker RMI image ID, it is saying that this image is being used by stopped container. So forcefully, I want to delete the image. To delete the image forcefully, we are going for Docker RMI -F. -F nothing but force and image ID. So to remove the image, we are using a command called Docker RMI. Remove Docker image. So what is the command? Docker RMI image name or image ID. You can give anything. Image name or image ID. Remove Docker image forcefully. Remove Docker image forcefully. Getting my point? How to remove the Docker image forcefully? Docker RMI -F image name and image ID we are going to give. Next one, I want to remove the container. Docker PS-A. Now you see there is a container which is in the stopped state. I want to remove the container. For that, Docker RM image, Docker RM container ID. So when I use Docker RM container ID, that container is deleted. PS-A. Now there is no stopped containers also. To remove the image, we will use RMI. To remove the container, we will use RM command. Remove Docker container. To remove the Docker container, the command is Docker RM container ID. To remove the container, we will use a command called Docker RM container ID. Are you able to follow this? Now here, if you don't want to remove, I just want to stop the container. I just want to stop the container. Stop the container. Container is running. I want to stop the container. To stop the container, we will use a command called Docker stop container ID. Docker stop container ID. It is going to stop the container. I want to remove the container. Then we can go for a Docker RM. Now delete all the stopped containers and unused images. For example, see here, I will go for Docker pull hello world. Okay, I'm pulling that image. I have removed that image, so it is pulling that image. That image got pulled. Then go for Docker run hello world. Then go for Docker run hello world. So now my image is available and the container is also available. Go for Docker images, then go for Docker ps-a, Docker images and Docker ps-a. So when we go for a Docker images, it is displaying hello world image. And when we go for Docker ps-a, it is showing one container which is in the stopped state. Now what I want to do is, I want to remove all the stopped containers and unused images in the system. I want to remove all unused containers, all stopped containers and unused images, unused networks and all that stuff. I want to make everything is clean. Remove stopped containers, plus unused images plus unused Docker networks, unused networks. So I want to remove all stopped containers, unused images, unused networks. For that, we will use a command called Docker system prune -a. Docker system prune -a. It is used to remove all the stopped containers and unused images plus unused networks. Docker system prune -a. Now you see, when I execute Docker ps-a, it is displaying one container which is in the stopped state. Okay. Docker images command, when I see there is one image. Now I want to delete everything. For that, Docker system prune -a. It is giving a warning. This will remove all the stopped containers, all the networks not used by at least one container, all images without at least one container associated to them, all the build cache. So all the stopped containers, unused networks, unused images, build cache will be deleted when you go for Docker system prune -a command. Are you sure want to continue? Yes, I want to continue. See here, it deleted the container, it deleted the image. Total 13 KB space it is reclaimed. It cleaned everything. After doing this, let's execute Docker images command. Nothing is available. Docker ps-a, nothing is available. So do you understand what is the purpose of Docker system prune -a? Do you understand what is Docker system prune -a? Come on, guys. Do you understand what is Docker system prune -a? Yeah. So let us see these commands here. Docker info, which is used to see the information about our Docker daemon. Docker images, what all the images that we have in our system. Docker pull is used to download the image. And after downloading, we can see the images by using Docker images command. I want to run the image. For that, we will go for Docker run hello world. Running the hello world Docker image. Display Docker running containers. Docker PS. It is used to display the running Docker containers. Displaying running plus stopped containers. For that, we can go for Docker ps-a. Docker ps-a. Then remove Docker images. If you want to remove the Docker image, RMI, remove image, either by using image name or by using image ID. So remove the Docker image forcefully. For that, Docker RMI-F. Okay. Then go for stop the container. My container is running. I want to stop the container. For that, we can go for Docker stop container ID. Remove the Docker container. To remove the Docker container, Docker RM command we are going to use. So if I want to remove, I want to clean everything, remove all stopped containers plus unused images plus unused networks. Then we can use a command called Docker system prune -a. It will remove all the stopped containers plus unused images plus unused networks. So these are some basic commands related to images and containers. Prune means clean up everything. Docker system prune-a. Prune means remove everything. Clean my system. Remove all stopped containers, unused images, unused networks, make system clean. For that, we are going for Docker system prune-a. Guys, are you clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? Perfect. Yeah, fine, guys. So with this, we got the basic idea how the Docker images will be working and how the Docker containers will be working. So can you tell me which command I need to use to run the Docker image? Can you guys tell me which command I need to use to run the Docker image? Can you type in the chat box? Docker run command we need to use. Let me go to my Docker Hub account. I told you to create the account in the Docker Hub, hub.docker.com. Yeah. So this is Docker Hub, guys. I have the account in the Docker Hub. So I want you people to create the account. I gave the link in the chat box. So create the account in the Docker Hub. In order to push the Docker images to the Docker Hub, you should have an account in the Docker Hub. Okay. Now this is my Docker Hub account. So here can you see there is an image available. So what is the name of the image? Ashok IT / spring-boot-rest-API. This is the name of my image. Now I want to pull that image. Can you tell me the command how to pull that image? So this is one image. It is a Spring Boot REST API. I want to pull this image. How to pull this image? Do you know how to pull this image? Yes, take this image name. Spring-boot-rest-API. Ashok IT / spring-boot-rest-API. Now, let us see here, guys. In my machine, do I have Java? Tell me, do I have Java in my machine? No, Java is not available. Spring Boot is a Java-based application. To run the Spring Boot application, Java software is required in our machine. Now let us see Docker images. Do I have any images in my system currently? Not available. Now let me go for Docker pull Ashok IT / spring boot REST API. Okay. So there is a Docker image in my Docker Hub account. I want to pull that image. For that, I'm using Docker pull image name. Then execute this command. Then see here, it is downloading my Docker image. Yes, it pulled that Docker image. Then let us check the images. Really, is it pulled or not? Docker images. Can you see that my image is pulled or not? 15 months ago, that image got created. This is the name of the image and this is the ID of the image. So the image size is 178 MB. What is there in this image? Let us see. Docker inspect image ID. I'm using Docker inspect image ID. See what is the information that is available in the image. So if you want to see the information related to the image, then you can use a command called Docker inspect image ID. So this is the ID, this is the repo tag, this is the repo digest, parent, comment, container configuration, nothing is available, configuration, Docker version, and environment, which environment is required. Java 1.8 is required to run this application. So here, this application is having a jar file. We need to run that jar file. This is the command that is required to run the jar file. it is using AMD 64 Linux based operating system. It is using AMD 64 Linux based operating system, and these are the root file systems which are available. These are the root file systems which are available like this. Whatever is required to run my code, it is already part of the Docker image. So we packaged our application code plus application dependencies in the Docker image. So what all the information is available in the Docker image, we can see by using a command called docker inspect image ID. Okay, inspecting the Docker image, inspect the Docker image. So to inspect the Docker image, we can go for docker inspect image ID. Inspect means it's like a doing postmortem to see what content is available in the image. Inspect Docker image. To inspect the Docker image, we will go for docker inspect image ID. Okay, guys. Inspect Docker image, docker inspect image ID. So if you do the inspector, that means we are doing the postmortem on the Docker image. So we are seeing what all the information is available. This is my image name, and these are the containers. That container is not available currently with this image, and Docker version and a Docker, this environment which is used to run this application, and what is the command that we are using to run this application. So where this application will execute in the container, how this application will execute in the container. Spring Boot application will be packaged as a jar file. To run that jar file, this is the command I am giving, java-jar space jar file name. So we are able to do inspection on the image by using docker inspect image ID. Now, this image is available in my Docker Hub, and I'm able to pull the image from the Docker Hub. Now, can you tell me how to remove this image, guys? Can you tell me how to remove this image? What is the command? What is the command? RMI. Now let us see docker RMI. Docker RMI, give the image ID. So this image is deleted because this image is not associated with any container. So directly we have deleted that image. Now, can I run the image directly? Currently, the image is available in my system. The image is not available in my system. Currently, that image is available in my system, or image is not available in my system. Image is not available. Now directly I'm going to execute docker run ashok it / spring boot rest API. So what I am doing, docker run image name. Guys, observe carefully. Whenever we execute the docker run command, first it will check for the image in the local system. If the image available in the local system, it will execute that image. If the image is not available in the local system, it will download from the Docker Hub and it will run that image. Docker run image name. Observe, it is saying clearly unable to find the image locally. Then what happened? It is pulling the image from the Docker Hub. Downloaded the new image for Ashok IT Spring Boot. Now see, my Spring Boot application is executing. In my system, Java is not available, but still I'm able to run Java application. How it is possible? It is possible because Docker is preparing that Java environment to run my Spring Boot application. So here observe, when I run the docker run command with the image name, first it searched for that image in the local. So is that image available in the local? Not available in the local. That image is not available in the local. So when the image is not available in the local, it is pulling that image from the Docker Hub. After pulling the image, then it is running the image. What is the meaning of running the image? Running our application. So in that image, our application code is available, Java software is available. So using that Java software, it executed my Spring Boot application jar file. So once the Spring Boot application is executed, we can see Tomcat server is started with the port number 9090. So I have configured the customized port number for this Spring Boot application. This Spring Boot application having the port number as 9090. Now guys, how much time it is taking to run this application in the Linux machine? Am I installing the Java software? Am I installing the Java software in this machine, or I'm not installing the Java software? I did not install the Java software. In general, to run the Java application, we need to install the Java software. But here, I'm installing the Java. Docker is taking care of Java. Am I installing this Java? Docker is taking care of this Java. Come on. Am I installing this Java software? Docker is taking care of this Java software. Docker is taking care of this Java software. Now, do you understand what is containerization? What is containerization? Now, do you understand? Directly, I'm able to run the Java application because 1 year back, I prepared one Spring Boot application and I packaged that application as a jar file and I created a Docker file for that application. In that Docker file, I configured all the dependencies and I prepared a Docker image. That Docker image I stored in the Docker Hub. Now you can also pull my Docker image. You can also run this Docker image. This is a public image. Anybody can run this. That's why you see 65,000 people accessed my Docker image. So if you go to the Docker Hub, if you see my image, this is the first Docker image I stored into my Docker Hub 1.5 years back. 65,000 people pulled my image and they executed my image. So now this image is a public image. Anybody can pull and anybody can run. When they run this image, a Spring Boot application will execute by using Docker. Are you clear? Now, as of now, my EC2 instance does not have any relation with my Docker Hub. As of now, is my EC2 instance having any relation with the Docker Hub? No. So it is a public image. If Docker is installed in the computer, anybody can pull that image. As it is a public image, anybody can pull. So my EC2 instance having the Linux operating system. In this Linux operating system, I executed a Docker pull command, Docker run command. So anybody in your machine also, you can pull my image, you can run my image. Currently, there is no relation between EC2 instance and my Docker Hub account. Are you guys clear? Are you guys clear with my point? Now, do you understand how container is getting created? Am I installing the Java software to run my application? Java software installed by Docker to run my application? Am I installing the Java software or Docker is taking care of the Java software to run my application? So now I want to install my application in the 100 computers. Do I need to install the Java in the 100 computers or I just need to run the image in the 100 computers? In 100 computers, I want to run my Java application. In 100 computers, I want to run the Java application. Come on, guys. In 100 computers, I want to run the Java application. Do I need to install everything or I just need to run the image? Do I need to install everything or I need to just run the image? We just need to run the image. We just need to run the image. Are you clear? Are you clear with my point? Perfect. Now, fine. We have a Docker image and we are able to pull the image and we are able to run the image. When I run the image, Docker container is created. In my Linux machine, Docker container is created. So like this. So I have one EC2 instance. That EC2 instance having a Linux operating system. That Linux operating system is called as host operating system. In that Linux operating system, I installed Docker engine. By using that Docker engine, I executed a Docker image. Then one Docker container is created. Inside that container, my application is executing. In that container, application plus Java software is available. Using that Java software, my application is executed in that container. So whenever we run the image, Docker container will be created. Are you guys able to follow me? Are you guys able to follow me? Yes. Now we need to understand how to write the Docker file and how to create our own Docker image and how to store the Docker image into dockerhub.com. So I created several images and I stored those images into my dockerhub.com. Now we need to understand how to create our own Docker image and how to store that Docker image into dockerhub.com. For that, first we need to learn what is the Docker file, how to write a Docker file. For Java application, how to write a Docker file. For Python application, how to write a Docker file. For Angular application, how to write a Docker file. For React application, how to write a Docker file. First, we need to understand what is the Docker file, how to write the Docker file. Once we have the Docker file, using that Docker file, we can create a Docker image. Then Docker image can be pushed to Docker Hub. Then anybody can pull the image and they can run the image. Shall we start now? Guys, shall we start now? So we need to understand Docker file. Good. Yes, fine. Any questions? Anyone? Before going to start understanding the Docker file, anybody having any questions can unmute and can ask.
Yeah, hi, sir.
Sir,
This is Paulomi here.
Yeah, hi.
So, sir, how can I created the Docker account? Now, how can I find your repositories? How can I get to see the Ashok IT repositories?
No, you can't see my repositories. Everybody will have their own account, right?
Okay. Then how will that the path, the Ashok IT path which you gave in the MOBA extern, right? That path from where I'll get it?
You see here now, you can just type it and you can pull my image.
this image name is unique.
Yeah,
For
this
now,
image,
I did like that. But in the real time, how can I do that?
in the real time, for the project, we have one Docker Hub account. Everybody will have access for that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Got it. Yes. Okay.
Ashok,
So, sir, we need to keep this image name unique right now every time.
Yes, in our repository, this image name should be unique. In my Docker Hub account, in my Docker Hub account, every image should be unique. So this Ashok IT is my username. So you will have your username / your image name will be available.
So can we create a source code from this image in backward direction? Can we create a source code from this image?
No, you can't do that. You can't do that. Image is already a package. So what you are asking is, from the image, can I get my source code back? No, you can't do that. From the source code, and I have the source code, and I have the converted that source code to the bytecode and created a jar file. With that jar file, I created Docker image by using Docker file.
Okay.
And remember, when I am pulling that image, running the image, Docker container is created. Who is installing Java? Already the Java software is packaged in the Docker image. In the Docker image, already Java is available. My Spring Boot application jar file is available. When I run that Docker image, Docker will install the Java in that container and it is running my application. So that is what the message we are seeing that. So my Spring Boot application is started by using Tomcat container. Clearly, it is displaying the logs. Tomcat started on the port number 9090. So this is my Spring Boot application log. That means the application is executing in the Docker container.
So it is on localhost or the URL, our EC2 instance.
That URL, it is EC2 instance URL. Later we will see how to access this application. Now this application is not running in the EC2. In the EC2, one container is created. In that container, my application is running. Now this is my host EC2. In that I installed Docker. In that Docker container is created. Okay. Now there is no relation between this container and this EC2. We need to establish the relation between the container and EC2. Then only outside users can access this application, which is running in the container. That we will understand slowly.
Okay.
Yep.
sir.
Yep.
How to create, sir?
Could we delete more than one image or container at a time?
Sorry.
Could we delete more than one image or one container more than one container or image at a time?
No, you need to give the container ID or image ID to delete. If you want to delete everything, then Docker system prune command will delete everything in single shot.
No. Actually, I want to delete more than one image at a time.
No, it's not possible.
And as well as container also.
Yeah.
And also we cannot delete more than one container at a time.
No, because they will take the ID, right?
Okay. And often interviewer asks a question: how to reduce the image sizes?
How to?
So how to reduce the image sizes?
Yes, we will discuss. We will discuss that. First of all, we should know how to create the image. Then I will tell you how to optimize the size of the image.
Okay. Sure.
Hello, Ashok. One question. We have deployed this REST API container, right?
Yeah.
How do we see that Apache Tomcat server is running or not on that 1990? What is the IP address?
You can see that, right? Container port number.
Port number I can see. What is the IP address?
The IP address is our public IP of the EC2 instance.
Oh,
public IP of the
okay.
This public IP is there, na? Yeah, public IP : 9090 that you need to access.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, actually container will be created. Am I right? Hello,
guys, this is just a demo, just a proof to say that I'm able to run the image. My Spring Boot application is running. You can see the Tomcat server. How to access this application from our browser, we will discuss all those things. Don't get worried about it. Okay, I will show you everything. Just, did you understand how to pull the image, how to run the image? That's enough for now. We need to create Docker file. First, we need to understand the Docker file. Then we will see how to create our own image. Then we will see how to run that image. Then we will see how to access that application outside of this machine. Everything we will discuss. Everything we'll discuss. Just, I want to show you how to run the image. That's it. Is that clear for everyone?
A small request. So while we're working on this Docker.
Sorry?
Yeah. Hello?
Yes.
Ashok, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So this is just a humble request from my end. Like,
your voice is very low. I am not able to hear.
Hello?
Yeah,
am I
now
audible
I
now?
can. Yes.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, so as we are working on Docker right now, so my point is, can you install and create everything only on Linux? Because like actually we gonna work only on Linux, not Windows.
That is what we are saying. We are doing that, madam. Now I have taken the Docker and the Linux machine. We are going to do that. We will see everything on the Linux.
Of like Maven or whatever we gonna create, just do it only in Linux, not on Windows. This is just
sure. Yeah, right. Fine, guys. So we understood the commands. So here, how to pull the image, how to run the image. I'm hoping that everybody is having the account in the Docker, hub.docker.com. Now we need to understand what is a Docker file and how to write the Docker file to Dockerize our application. What is a Docker file? How to write the Docker file and how to Dockerize our application. So let us see here. Docker file. This is very, very, very important, guys. In the interview, they will, now if you are attending the online interview also, they will ask you to share your screen in the interview and they will ask you to write the Docker file. So Docker file is very, 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 very important. So in order to create your Docker image, then Docker file is mandatory. Without the Docker file, we cannot create the Docker image, right? So let's try to understand what is the Docker file and how to write our Docker file for different applications. First of all, what is the Docker file? Docker file contains set of instructions. Docker file contains set of instructions to build Docker image. Docker file contains set of instructions to build the Docker image. In Docker file, we will use DSL keywords. In Docker file, we will use DSL keywords, nothing but domain specific language. Domain specific language keywords we are going to use to build that. Okay, so when we write the Docker file, Docker engine will process the Docker file instructions from top to bottom to build the Docker image. Docker engine will read Docker file instructions from top to bottom to process, right? So I'm going to take a Docker file. In that Docker file, I will write the instruction 1, instruction 2, 3, 4, like that. I want Java, I want to Tomcat, like that. What are the things that we need to run our application? What are the things that we need to run our application? We are going to specify in the Docker file. So here, Docker file contains set of instructions to build the Docker image. In Docker file, we will use DSL, domain specific language, right? Docker engine will read the Docker file instructions from top to bottom to process. Now, below are the keywords we will use in the Docker file. In Docker file, we will use below keywords. Okay. So what are the keywords that we are going to use in the Docker file? First one is from keyword. And the second one is maintainer keyword. And the third one is copy keyword. And the fourth one is add keyword. And the fifth one is run keyword. And the sixth one is CMD keyword. And the seventh one is entry point keyword. Seventh one is entry point keyword. And the eighth one is environment keyword. And the ninth one is label keyword. And the 10th one, work dir. And 11th one, we are going to use expose keyword. And the 12th one, we are going to use volume keyword. So like this, we are going to use these keywords in order to write our Docker file. So what is this Docker file? Docker file contains a set of instructions to build the Docker image. So in this Docker file, we will specify what we need to run our application. Docker file contains a set of instructions to build the Docker image. In Docker file, we will use a DSL, nothing but a domain specific language. These are the DSL keywords. These keywords are not specific to Java, not specific to Python, not specific to .NET. So these are common DSL keywords. Any language can use these keywords. That's why they are called as domain specific language keywords. When we are writing the Docker file for Java application, we will use these keywords. When we are writing the Docker file for .NET application, we will use these keywords. When we are writing the Docker file for Python application, same keywords. That's why they are called as domain specific language keywords. So when we write the Docker file with these keywords, when we try to build the Docker image, Docker engine will read the Docker file instructions from top to bottom to process. So what are the keywords we are going to use in the Docker file? We will be using from keyword, maintainer keyword, copy, add, run, CMD, entry point, env, label, work directory, expose, value. Now we need to understand what is the purpose of each keyword and how to write a Docker file by using these keywords. So in the interview, 100% damn sure they will ask, what is a Docker file? And can you please share your screen and write the Docker file for the Python application, or write the Docker file for the Java application, write the Docker file for the Spring Boot application, write the Docker file for the Angular application, React application, like that they will ask. You should know what is the keywords we need to use and how to write the Docker file. Without a Docker file, we cannot create the Docker image. Are you getting my point? Without the Docker file, we cannot create the Docker image. Docker file contains a set of instructions to build the Docker image. That means what all the softwares that we need to use in our application, those things we are going to specify in the Docker file. So Docker file contains instructions to build the image. We will use DSL language. Top to bottom, it is going to read. So to write the Docker file, these are the keywords we are going to use. From keyword, maintainer, copy, add, run, CMD, entry point, env, label, work dir, expose, volume, like this. Now, let us see the keywords one by one. So first one is from keyword. The first one is from keyword. So what is this from keyword? From keyword is used to represent base image to create our own image. It represents from keyword. It represents base image to create our Docker image. So now I want to run my application. To run my application, I have the code. To run this code, I need Java. So Java is called as base image to run my application. So here in the Docker file, we are going to write from keyword. What is the purpose of this from keyword? From keyword represents base image to create our Docker image. It represents base image to create our Docker image. So now, what is the meaning of the base image? So for example, the syntax, I want to use Java 1.8 version. So I am writing a Docker file for my Java application. Assume that I have my application code. This code is developed by using Java. To run this code, I need Java image. So here, Java is called as base image. For example, when I go for Python, I want to use Python 3.2 as a base image to run my application. To run my application, I want to use Python. I want to use MySQL database for my application. MySQL 8.5 I want. So that means which is software you want to create the image and which version of the software you want, that you can specify by using from keyword. So what is the from keyword? It represents base image to create our Docker image. Like this, we are going to specify the syntax. Like this, we are going to specify the syntax. For example, I want to use a Tomcat to run my application. Tomcat 9.2, something like this 9.5. So here, from keyword we are going to use in the Docker file. The from keyword represents base image to create our Docker image. So to create the Docker image, I need Java software. Image nothing but code plus softwares, right? So here in this image, I want to keep my code and I want to keep the Java also. Which version of Java you want? Which version of the Python you want? Which version of the MySQL database you want? Which version of the Tomcat you want in the image? Everything we will specify by using from keyword. So from keyword represents base image to create our Docker image. From, we are going to specify like this. Are you guys clear? Guys, please respond in the chat box. Are you clear with what is the from keyword in the Docker file? Are you guys clear with what is from keyword in the Docker file? It is very important to understand the Docker file. You should be able to write the Docker file on your own. So from keyword represents base image to create the Docker image, right? That means by using from keyword, we'll specify which software we are going to specify. Okay. Similarly, we are having a next keyword that is called maintainer. There is a keyword called maintainer. So it's very simple. Maintainer is used to specify who is the author of this Docker file. Maintainer is used to specify Docker file author information. So in our team, multiple team members will be available. Which team member is writing this Docker file? Which team member is maintaining that Docker file, that we are going to specify here. Maintainer. It is used to specify. It is used to specify maintain author of the Docker file author information. That means who is writing this Docker file, that information we will specify by using maintainer. Let's go for this syntax. So now in this syntax, let's use maintainer. Maintainer, I will specify my name, Ashok. So my mail ID, ashok.b, something like this, oracle.com. Fine. So here, maintainer. Maintainer is used to specify Docker file author information. So in the Docker file, I will keep maintainer, my name, my official email ID. Like this, we are going to specify. Are you guys clear? Maintainer is used to specify Docker file author information. And the next one, copy. It is used to copy the files from one location to another location. Got it? It is used to copy the files from source to destination. So copy, it is used to copy the files from source to destination. It is used to copy the files from source to destination. It is used to copy the files from source to destination. What is the syntax of this command? Copy, we are going to specify source location and we are going to specify destination location. Copy command we are using to copy the files from source location to destination location. Sir, From is used to specify the base image. From is used to specify the base image. Maintainer is used to specify the Docker file author information. Copy, it is used to copy the files from source to destination while creating the Docker image. When the Docker image is creating, then I want to copy some files from source to destination. Remember this point. While creating the Docker image, if you want to copy the files, then you can go for copy command. So when you will use this copy command, for example, I have my project jar file in the target folder. For example, I have the project jar file in the target folder. Copy target Spring Boot API.jar. I want to copy this file into Tomcat server. App Tomcat Web Apps SB API.jar, or it is a war file. I want to copy the war file to the Tomcat server for execution. So here, when we are creating the Docker image, right, my code is available and my Docker file is available. In this Docker file, I will specify the project package is available in the project target folder. Jar file is available. Take the jar file and copy that jar file into Tomcat server. Okay, so here, if you want to copy the files from the source to destination while creating the Docker image, then we will go for copy command. So here we will have a project. We will package our project. When we package our project, we are going to get the jar file or war file. That jar file or war file I want to deploy in the Tomcat server. So I will copy the project jar or war. I will tell to Docker, hey Docker, my code is available in this location. You take my code from that location, you keep in the Tomcat server. So whenever I'm creating the image, then only I'm telling that. So I'm preparing a package to run the container, right? In that package, code should be available and software should be available. When I am creating a Docker image, I'm going to tell that my project code is available in the target folder. Copy the project war file from the target to the Tomcat web apps. This is my source location and this is my destination location. That means whenever we are creating the image, our code plus dependencies will be kept into image, one package. That package is called as a Docker image. So when we write in the Docker file, we will tell what is the location of our project code. Project is packaged as a jar file or war file. Copy that jar or war and keep in the Tomcat. Like this, if you want to copy the files from source to destination while creating the Docker image, then you will go for copy command. Similarly, we are having one more command called add command. What is the purpose? Here you see, from is available, maintainer is available, copy available. From is used to specify base image, which is base software is required to build our image. Maintainer represents author of this Docker file. Copy to copy the files from source to destination. Okay, guys. Similarly, we are having add command. It is used to copy the files from source to destination while creating the Docker image. So instead of the copy, I can give the add. Copy command and add command both are doing the same operation. Copy is used to copy the files from source to destination while creating the image like this. Whereas add command also used to copy the files from source to destination while creating the Docker image. So then what is the difference between the copy command and add command? Copy command will take from one location to another location, whereas add command can take it from source to destination as well as it can download from the URL also. Here, you no need to give the source location. You can give the URL also. From the particular URL, I want to download the file and I want to copy to that location. So here, copy will take from one location to another location, whereas add command will support for the URL also. Either you can give the source location or you can give the HTTP URL. Suppose my file is available in some other system. I want to download by using the URL and I want to keep in the destination. Copy command cannot take the URL. For the copy command, you have to give the only location. So in your system, if the file is available, that file can be copied from one location to another location. Whereas when you go for the add command, from one location you can copy it to another location. From one URL you can copy and you can keep in the destination. So like this, using copy command, you can just copy the files from one path to another path within the machine. What is the difference between copy command and add command? What is the difference between copy and add command? Okay, copy can copy the files from one path to another path within the same machine. It can copy from one path to another path within the same machine. It can copy from one path to another path within the same machine. Whereas add command, we can copy from one path to another path, and it supports for URLs also. It can copy from one path to another path, and it supports URL also. And it supports URL also as a source. Are you guys able to understand? What is the difference between, what is the purpose of copy command and add command? Guys, are you able to understand what is the difference between copy command and add command? They are used to copy the files from one path to another path. They want to copy the files from one path to another path. So copy command will copy from one path to another path within the same machine. It can copy from one path to another path within the same machine. Add command, it can copy from one path to another path, and it supports URL also as source. It supports URL also as source. Are you clear with the first four keywords? Are you clear with the first four keywords? From is used for base image. Maintainer, to configure author information. Copy, to copy the files from one path to another path within the same machine. Add, it can copy from one path to another path. That source you can give the URL also. For the copy, you cannot give the URL. The next one is very important, guys. Run command. The next one is run command. The next one is run command. Run is used to execute some instructions while creating the Docker image. Run is used to execute some instructions while creating the Docker image. Okay, for example, when I am creating the Docker image, I want to install Maven and I want to compile my code. Are you getting my point? So here my code is available in the GitHub. Assume that my code is available in the GitHub. When I am creating a Docker image, I want to install the Maven, I want to install the Git and clone the code, clone the repository, then install the Maven and compile the project. So whenever we are creating a Docker image, if you want to install some softwares, then you can go for run command. What is the purpose of run command? Run is used to execute the instructions while creating the image. Run instructions will execute while creating Docker image. Okay, guys. Using run, we can give instructions to Docker to install some softwares. Run instructions will execute while creating Docker image. For example, syntax is run yum install git and run yum install maven. Okay, run git clone repo URL. Run mvn clean package. Like this. So here my code is available in the GitHub. In order to download that code, I need to install the Git software. And I want to compile that code by using Maven. For that, I will use mvn clean package. So like this, when your Docker image is creating, if you want to execute some instructions, if you want to execute some Linux commands, then you can go for run. Yum install Git. It is used to install the Git software. Yum install Maven. It is used to install the Maven software. Git clone, it is used to clone the repository. MVN clean package, it is used to clean and package our Maven project. It is used to clean and package our Maven project. Are you guys clear? Are you guys clear with my point? Right. So run instructions will execute while creating the Docker image. Now here, my code is available in the GitHub. My code is available in the GitHub. In the Docker file, I'm specifying that install the Git and clone the Git repository. Install the Maven and package the project using Maven. Then copy that WAR file to the Tomcat. Like this, we can use run instructions while executing Docker image creation. While executing Docker image creation. Run instructions will execute while creating Docker image. This is the syntax to write the Docker run instructions. Note, we can write multiple run instructions. Docker engine will process from top to bottom. Will process from top to bottom. Are you guys getting my point? Run instructions will execute while creating Docker image. This is the syntax to write the run instructions in the Docker file. So we can write multiple run instructions. Docker image will process run instructions from top to bottom. So like this, you can write all the 4 instructions in the Docker file. First, it will install the Git, then it will install the Maven, then it will clone the repository, then it will package that repository. So like this, how to do that package? Now here, I will specify run cd space repo name. We will get inside that project. Then it will execute Maven clean package. So here I'm installing the Git, I'm installing the Maven, I'm cloning the repository, I'm going inside the repository directory, then I'm executing the Maven clean package. So like this, you can execute several instructions by using run. When the run instructions will execute while creating the Docker image. And you can write multiple run instructions. Docker engine will process them from top to bottom. Are you clear, guys? Any softwares that are required while creating the image, you can execute that command by using run. You can execute that command by using run. Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? Next one. There is another command called CMD command. There is another command called CMD. CMD instructions will execute while creating the Docker container. Run instructions will execute at this stage. CMD instructions will execute at this stage. Getting my point? So here I have a code. My project is available in the GitHub. Now this is my code and this is my Docker file. So using the code and the Docker file, I want to build a Docker image. This is my code and this is my Docker file. This is the code and this is the Docker file. Now I want to take this code and I want to take this Docker file. Okay. With this Docker file, I want to build Docker image. With this code, I want to build a Docker image. Right? With this image, I want to run the Docker container. With this image, I want to run the Docker container. Okay. So code is available plus the Docker file is available. By using them, we are going to create a Docker image. By using the Docker image, we are going to create a Docker container. Our application will run inside the Docker container. So this is called build image. Docker build, we're going to create the Docker image, then run the Docker image, then Docker container will create. When I am building the Docker image, I want to install Git, run yum install Git. And I want to install run yum install Maven. Then I will do the cloning and I will package and I will copy the file from this system to the Tomcat folder. So that means when I am creating the Docker image, if I want to execute some commands, then I will go for run commands, run instructions. I'm telling to the Docker engine, run this Linux command so that it will install the Git software. I'm telling to the Docker engine, run this command so that it will install the Maven. So to get the code from the Git, I need a Git client. To package this project, I need Maven. So install these softwares while creating the image itself. Okay. Now in this Docker file, I will specify from as Java 1.8. From as Java 1.8. What is the meaning of from Java 1.8? So for this application, Java is required as a base image. For this application, Java is required as a base image. Then while creating the image, you have to download the Java and you have to install these commands. You have to execute these commands. So if you want to execute any command while creating the Docker image, then you will go for run command. Fine, with this my Docker image is created. After the Docker image is created, I want to run some commands when the container is creating. CMD start Tomcat. Okay. Container creation means what? Container creation means my application will execute. Container creation means what? My application will execute. Sudo start Tomcat. So container creation means application execution. When the container is creating, I want to tell to the Docker, start the Tomcat server to run my application. Already we copied the war file from the system to Tomcat folder. When the container is creating, in the Docker image, Tomcat will be available. In that Tomcat, my war file is copied. When the container is creating, I want to start the Tomcat. See, run is used to execute the commands. CMD also used to execute the commands. But there is a difference. Run will execute the commands while creating the Docker image. CMD will execute the commands while creating the Docker container. So that is the difference. CMD instructions will execute while creating Docker container. CMD instructions will execute while creating Docker container. Okay. Using the CMD commands, we can run our application in the container. Using CMD command, we can run our application in container. So container is the one which will run our application. Syntax. For example, I want to start sudo start Tomcat. Or else I will specify CMD java-jar file like this. So run will execute while creating the image. CMD will execute while creating the container. So what is the difference between run and CMD? That is also an interview question. What is the difference between run and CMD? It's very famous interview question in the Docker file. What is the difference between run and CMD? Run instruction will execute while creating the Docker image. CMD instruction will execute while running the Docker container. Are you guys able to follow me? What is the run? Run instructions will execute while creating the Docker image, whereas CMD instructions will execute while creating the Docker container. Both are not same. So run instructions will execute at this stage when we are building the Docker image. Once the Docker image is created, we will run the Docker image to create the Docker container. At the time of creating the Docker container, if you want to start the Tomcat server or if you want to execute your jar file, that information we can configure as the CMD instruction. Okay, guys. Now here in a Docker file, we can write multiple run instructions. Docker engine will process from top to bottom. All the run instructions will be executed. Whereas if you go for CMD, Docker will process only last CMD instruction. You can write multiple CMD instructions in the Docker file, but all the CMD instructions will not execute. Docker file should contain only one CMD. Even if you write the multiple CMD instructions, Docker engine will process only last CMD instruction. We can write multiple run instructions. They will execute from top to bottom. We can write multiple CMD instructions, but Docker engine will process only last CMD instruction. That means there is no use of writing multiple CMD instructions in the Docker file. If you write 3 CMD instructions, only the last one will be executed. Technically, you can keep multiple CMD instructions, but a Docker engine will process only last CMD instruction. When you go for the run, you can write multiple run instructions. Docker engine will process from top to bottom. You can write multiple run instructions. Docker engine will process from top to bottom. Every run instruction will be executed. But when you go for the CMD instructions will execute while creating the Docker container. Using CMD, we can run our application in the container. CMD sudo start the Tomcat or CMD Java execute the jar file. We can write multiple CMD instructions, but Docker engine will process only last CMD instruction. Are you guys able to understand what is the difference between run and CMD in the Docker file? Are you guys able to understand what is run and CMD in the Docker file? Are you guys able to understand run and CMD differences? Run and CMD differences? Is this clear? Please respond in the chat box. Very, very, very important topic and interesting topic. Yes, so we understood. We can write multiple run instructions. Docker engine will process them from top to bottom. Okay. Even if you write the multiple CMD instructions, Docker will process only last CMD instruction. That is the difference between. So in general, if you want to install any particular software while creating the image, we can go for the run. If you want to run the application, then we can go for CMD. Run is used to execute the instructions while creating Docker image. CMD instructions will execute while creating the Docker container. We can create multiple run instructions. Docker engine will process from top to bottom. We can write multiple CMD instructions, but a Docker engine will process only last CMD instruction. Will process only last CMD instruction. Are you guys clear? So here, if you write the multiple CMD instructions, there is no use. Technically, you can write it, but there is no benefit of writing because it will process only last CMD instruction. There is no use of writing multiple CMD instructions in the Docker file. There is no use of writing. There is no use of writing multiple CMD instructions because it will process only last CMD instruction. Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? Yes. So how many keywords we understood as of now? How many keywords we understood as of now? 6 keywords we understood. These keywords are called as Docker file keywords. From, maintainer, copy, add, run, CMD. From is used to specify the base image to build our Docker image. Maintainer is used to specify author of the Docker file information. That means which team member developed this Docker file, that information we can configure. Copy, it is used to copy the files from one location to another location, from one path to another path in the same machine. And add command, that is also used to copy the files from one path to another path within the machine, as well as you can take the source as a URL also when you go for add command. And we have run command and CMD command. Run is used to execute the instructions while creating the Docker image. CMD is used to execute the commands while creating the container. Okay. Now guys, before going to understand the remaining commands, can we create a Docker file with these commands and can we build one sample Docker image? Can we do that? Can we do that? Yes. So now see here, I will take one sample Docker file. I'm not going to install any softwares and all, just a basic syntax I'm going to show you. Sample Docker file I'm going to write now. Just to print a hello world message, something like this. Sample Docker file. So I will specify from, I want Ubuntu. So I want to run my container in the Linux Ubuntu machine. Currently I'm using Amazon Linux machine. In this machine, I want to create a container. In that container, I want Ubuntu operating system, Ubuntu. Okay. Then maintainer. The maintainer name, I'm specifying my name as Ashok. So I'm specifying ashok.b@oracle.com, something like this. Okay. From is used to specify the base. I'm specifying the base as Ubuntu. I want Ubuntu machine in the container. Container should have a operating system, right? In the container, I want Ubuntu. Then maintainer, I'm specifying my name. Now here, I'm going to specify run command, echo. Echo is used to print a message. Hi, I am run 1. Run command 1. So first run I am executing. Similarly, I'm specifying run 2 and run 3. Run 2, run 3, I have specified. Then similarly, I'm specifying CMD echo. Hi, I am CMD1. I am CMD1. And here I will specify CMD2 and CMD3. So like this, I'm specifying from Ubuntu maintainer name, run instruction and CMD instruction. Guys, when this run instructions will execute, can you guys tell me when this run instruction will execute? When the run instructions will execute? While creating the image. When the CMD instructions will execute? When the CMD instructions will execute? While creating the container. Right? So run instructions will execute while creating the image. CMD instructions will execute while creating the container. All the run instructions will execute from top to bottom. But when it comes to the CMD, all the CMD instructions will execute or only last CMD instruction will execute? Only last CMD instruction will be executed. Save this file. Save the above content in a file. That file name, we are going to give it as Docker file. No extension, just we are going to save that as Docker file. You can give any name, but generally people will give the file name as Docker file. People will give the name as Docker file. Are you guys clear? Now, let me go to this machine. Can you see ls-l? In this machine, currently in the present working directory, do I have any data or I don't have any data? In my machine, in my present working directory, do I have any data or I don't have any data? I don't have any data. Now let me create a file. vi, the file name I am giving as Docker file. vi is an editor in the Linux to open a text file. In the Windows, we will use a notepad. In the Linux, we will use vi editor. vi space Docker file. My file is opened. Press I will go to insert mode. Then whatever the content you want in the Docker file, copy this content and right click, paste it. That's it. So this is my Docker file. It is very basic sample Docker file, guys. I'm not installing anything. I'm not copying anything. Just I want to show you how to write a sample Docker file. From this Docker file, how to create a Docker image. Are you getting my point? Yes. From Ubuntu. From is used to represent base image. Maintainer is the author name. Run commands are available. CMD commands are available. So run commands will execute while creating the Docker image. CMD commands will execute while creating the Docker container. Then press escape :WQ. I'm saving that file. That file got saved. Are you clear? Yes. Now with this, my file is available. Docker file is available. Docker file is available. ls-l I executed and I'm able to see the Docker file. I executed vi command. It created a file and it opened that file. In that file, I have copied this content and I have saved the content. I closed that file. Then when I see ls-l, I can see the Docker file is available. Now let us see any Docker images available now. One image is available, Ashok IT Spring Boot REST API. Let me delete everything. Docker system prune-a. I want to delete all the stopped containers, unused images and everything. Everything is deleted. Now go for a Docker images, nothing is available. Docker ps-a, nothing is available. Everything is clean. ls-l, I am having Docker file. So with this Docker file, I want to create a Docker image. Are you guys getting my point? Mr. Satish Kumar, I have written the CMD 3 instructions to show you that it will execute only last one. Okay, I already told you. It will execute only last CMD. Then you are asking, why are you writing 3 CMDs when it will execute only last? I want to show you that practically. That's why I'm writing 3 CMD instructions and I will show you only last one is executing. For practicals, I'm doing this. Okay, good. Fine. So guys, are you able to understand how I created a Docker file? Are you guys able to understand how I created a Docker file now? Sample Docker file. Create a Docker file. Create a file. Create a file with that file name. So what is the command to create a file? Vi Docker file. Copy above sample Docker file content. Then press insert mode and copy that. Copy above sample Docker file content and keep in Docker file. Just paste it. Okay. Then after doing this, just close that. Okay. After pasting, escape +:WQ. So that it will save the file and it will close that file. Once that is available, now I want to build the Docker image. Guys, observe carefully. First time we are creating our Docker image. Our own Docker image we are going to create now. So currently, any Docker images available in my machine? Docker images are not available in my machine. Docker images are not available. But I have a Docker file. Using this Docker file, I want to create the image. Observe carefully what is the command I am using to create the Docker image. Docker build -t image name. I'm giving it as Ashok IT image1 space dot. This is the command which is used to build a Docker image by using this Docker file. Docker build -t. -t represents image tag name. I want to give this name for the image. Ashok IT image1 space dot. Enter. Now see here, it is executing my Docker file instructions from top to bottom. It is executing my instructions from top to bottom. So successfully, my Docker image is created. Now what happened when I execute this Docker build command? Step 1, what is the step 1 in my Docker file? In my Docker file, step 1 is from Ubuntu. So it has executed from Ubuntu. It pulled Ubuntu image. Ubuntu means a Linux OS. It pulled Ubuntu image, downloaded the new image of the Ubuntu. Step 2, maintainer, it processed it, removing intermediate container. Step 3, see here, run echo. Hi, I am run 1. I'm getting that output. Hi, I am run 1. First run instruction is processed. Hi, I am run 2. Second run instruction also processed. Hi, I am run 3. Third run instructions also processed. So CMD instructions, CMD1, CMD2, CMD3 not processed. Run instruction output I got, first run instruction, second run instruction, third run instruction. but the CMD commands are executed, but output is not coming. Why? Because I have just created a Docker image by using Docker build command. Docker build command is used to build the Docker image by using the Docker file. So when I execute the Docker build command, run instructions are executed. There are 3 run instructions available in the Docker file. First run instruction, second run instruction, third run instruction. 3 run instructions are executed and I got the output. CMD instructions are not executed. The reason is CMD instructions will execute when I create the container. When I create the container. So what is the command I use to build the Docker image? Create Docker image using Docker file. Create Docker image using Docker file. So what is the command I am using? Docker build -t. Then we will specify image name and a dot. Docker build -t image name space dot. What is this dot? This dot represents present working directory. In the present working directory, my Docker file is available. You consider the Docker file from the present working directory and you build a Docker image with the image name. Once we build the Docker image with the image name, then let's verify Docker images. Now can you see it pulled Ubuntu image. Ubuntu I used as a base image. By using Ubuntu, Ashok IT image 1 is created. By using Ubuntu, Ashok IT image 1 is created. Now let us run the Ashok IT image. Docker run. This is my image ID. Docker run image ID. When I execute the Docker run image ID, which CMD is executed? Is it executing all the CMDs or it is executing only last CMD? Is it executing all the CMDs or executing only last one? It executed only last one. Are you guys clear with my point? Now, CMD is executing while creating the image or while running the container. CMD is executing while creating the container or while creating the image. Are you able to understand what is the difference between the run and the CMD? Are you able to understand the difference between the run and the CMD? Run instructions will execute while creating the image and CMD instructions will execute while creating the container. Now you got the clarity on how to write a Docker file. So we are going to write the Docker file for our applications. As of now, I'm not using any Java. I'm not writing any code, nothing. Just how to create a sample Docker file. When the run instruction will execute, when the CMD instruction will execute, what is the base image and how to build that Docker image and how to run the Docker image. Are you clear? Let me do this once again. Docker system prune -a. I'm deleting everything. Nothing is available now. I have deleted. Docker images. Do I have any image now in my system? Not available. Do I have any container is running or stopped? Not available. Nothing is available. Can I create the Docker image once again by using the same Docker file? By using the same Docker file, can I create the Docker image once again? Can you tell me the command now? Can you tell me the command now? Can you tell me the command now to build the Docker image? Yes, Docker build -t image name space dot. Here, my Docker file is available now. In the Docker file, what is the content? You can see vi Docker file. Okay, so I specified from Ubuntu. From where this Ubuntu is coming? Ubuntu will come from the Docker Hub. Ubuntu is a public image. Ubuntu is a public image. Ubuntu is coming from Docker Hub. Okay, when I specify from Ubuntu, the Docker engine will download the Ubuntu OS. Maintainer run CMD. Okay, now let me close this file, then build the image. Docker build command is used to create the image. -t, that is the tag name, space, image name. What is the image name I want? Ashok IT 1. You can give any name for the image. Ashok IT 1 space dot. Dot represents present working directory. From this present working directory, it will identify the Docker file. Based on that Docker file, this Ashok IT1 image will be created. Now you see, when I am executing this Docker build-t image name and dot, it is pulling the Ubuntu image from the Docker hub and it created my Docker image. Run instructions executed, first run instruction output, second run instruction output, third run instruction output. 3 run instructions are executed as I am creating the image. CMD instructions, I am not getting any output from the CMD because CMD instructions will execute while creating the container. Now let us check it. My image is created or not. Docker images. Ubuntu image is downloaded from the Docker hub because it is a public image and I created Ashok IT1 image. Now let me run the Ashok IT1 image. Docker run either image name or image ID, Ashok IT1. Now, when I run the image, container is created. When the container is created, CMD instruction will execute. There are 3 CMD instructions available, but Docker will process only last CMD instruction. Are you clear with my point? Yes. So I want you people to practice this. I will upload this Docker notes, guys. So this is very, very, very important to understand what is the Docker file, what are the keywords we will use in the Docker file, how to write the Docker file, how to build the Docker image, and how to run the Docker image. In the next session, we are going to see how to store the Docker image into Docker Hub. So we have the next session on Monday. In the Monday session, we will see how to push the Docker image to Docker Hub account so that anybody can pull our image. Whatever the image I created, currently this image is available only in my system. I want to push my image into dockerhub.com so that anybody can pull my image and they can run my image. And we are going to discuss the remaining keywords in the Docker, and we will try to write the Docker file for the Java application, Python application, Angular application, and React application. I will show you different applications for that. Okay, guys. So I'm uploading the notes into our portal. So once your practice is completed, you just stop your machine. So we are using Linux machine in the AWS cloud, right? Once your practice is completed, you just stop the machine which we have created. Now this is my Docker VM. It is in the running state. Select it, instance state, stop the instance. With this, my machine will be stopped. Once the machine is stopped, we will disconnect from this mobile extra. All right. So fine. Let me upload the notes into our website. Already for the people who completed the enrollment process, we have given the access in the website.